Yeah, bang bang rail. I come out of prison, end of 1978. Come out, went home to my mum, stayed there for a bit of time. Never really forgot my roots. West London, Acton, Chiswick, Brentford, Ealing, all around them areas. Worked in a couple of little clubs, and then moved to Lewisham because the girl I was with, she moved to Lewisham. I followed her really. It wasn't, I just wanted to be with her and moved to Lewisham. Pub at the bottom of my road, Brookbank Road. There was two ways, two gay guys that owned it. Went in there. Eddie Richardson was in there. A few people in there. A few was packed, And so I went in there. Don't drink. All the silly little drinks. Started talking, and before I know where I was talking to Eddie Richardson. I mean, the name. As soon as I hear the name, I was on it. None of this YouTube was about then, none of this podcasts, videos, nothing like that. But just had to talk to Eddie and talking to him about that I like fighting and all that. And he was saying, he said, yeah, you got a thing now called unlicensed fights. You fancy some of that? I said, yeah. So I said, I'm fit. I've been running a lot. He said, listen, there's a guy called Jimmy Tibbet that we know very well that's got some boys down the Thomas and Beckett. I went, yeah, well, Old Kent Road. He said, it's quite easy to get a bus, go there, boom, yeah. So I went to the Old Kent Road and met Jimmy Tibbet and started training. He loved me, mate. He liked the way I could bang. He liked the way I could move and took me under his wing. And I got in there, started doing lots of sit-ups, press-ups, sparring, shadowboxing, got in with Columbo, Steve Richards, had a few rounds of him, had a few rounds of Lloyd Roytham, he knocked me spark out, got in with Roy Shaw, got in with Les Stevens, Johnny Frankham's cousin, good fighter, Les Stevens, mate. And I was to spar with loads of people, always held my own with these people, and I just fancied my chance as an unlicensed fighter. I couldn't get my licence because I was an armed robbery person. So then Jimmy said, look, we've got a fight. I've already had two fights at Harvey Social Club Woolwich. Beat them easy, 2 knockouts, yeah. Went to Harvey Social, went to, Mayfair, Tottenham, and met Frankie Warren and Vic Andretti, and they got me a fight. Got me a fight with a guy called Brian Hall, ex-professional Brian Hall. He's had lots of fights, Brian. He was a good fighter, Brian Hall. I was surprised that his name hadn't been mentioned quite a few times because Brian Hall's a hard man. He's fought some good men, mate, Brian Hall. Anyway, they give me him. It went 8 rounds or 10 rounds. It was a draw. I thought I won it, but it was a draw, and that's how I met Lenny McLean, shouting at me about this. I should have done that, should have stopped this, should have done that. And then me and Lenny had real loggerheads at each other, shouting matches. Got involved with Vic Andretti, got involved with Frankie Warren, and met Lenny down with Frankie. Jimmy Tibbet was talking to Vic Andretti and Frankie Warren. Met him down a ring pub, and we had a few sparring sessions upstairs. I always thought I could hold my own with Lenny McLean, yeah. Even he was only 16 and a half, 17 stone then, you know what I mean? I was about 18 stone, but he wasn't massive, he wasn't that big guy that everyone portrays, yeah? And anyway, so I started having quite a few fights, Mayfair, Tottenham's, all places like that, Kevin Paddock, Sid Paddock, quite a few fighters I had, loads. I've had, 40 fights, loads of unlicensed fights, loads. Anyway, and then because I wasn't really going anywhere as such, yeah, I thought, well, I look at Joe Pyle. Joe Pyle started all this unlicensed game off with Roy Shaw and Donald the Bull Adams, yeah. So I thought to myself, well, you got Frankie Warren doing it, big shows Frank puts up. Why don't I do it? Because it looks simple. I'm a good fighter. I can fight anybody. So what I done, I went to Acton, West London, where I come from. Never got my roots yet. Went there. I used to fight as a kid. with a guy called Colin Cracknell. Colin Cracknell, I don't know why, Colin Cracknell was never mentioned as one of the hardest men ever. Believe me, mate, let me tell you something. When I worked in a fruit market, we used to go down Covent Garden, Spitfield, we used to go down all these other markets, yeah? Fruit markets, and listen, Colin Cracknell would fight anybody. There was a load of people petrified him in all these markets, fruit markets, yeah? And don't worry about that, he could really have it, Colin. I used to fight with Colin quite a lot, and he taught me a lot, yeah? So when I had my own shows, I thought, well, who can I get as the main fighter? So the first fight I had, I forget this guy's name, but this guy was a hard man, yeah? I stopped him in the first round, but he hit me a few times and he really rocked me, yeah? I was lucky to catch him, and he rocked him and he got stopped. It stopped, yeah? So my first fight was big town hall, Acton Town Hall packed. Second fight, Colin Cracknell. Everybody wanted to see that fight. Everyone wanted to see me and him fight. Colin was the governor, the bully, the market, all round Brentford, Chiswick. Everybody was petrified him by the Welleses. The big Welleses, like Arthur Wells, Charlie Wells, Billy Wells, all that lot of Welleses, mate, was Tommy Wells, all that lot was brothers, was really bad brothers. Could really have it. Most of them ex-professional fighters that would have lots of fights. And they talk about hard men now. These men, mate, would eat this lot. The lot from West London who run them fruit markets, they would have mullered these unlicensed fighters are today that people talk about, yeah? Like Lenny McLean, Roy Shaw. These people down there, mate, they didn't get involved with that. They didn't need to get involved with that, you know what I mean? There was only good money. They didn't want to get involved with fisticuffs. Only Colin loved it. But I got Colin involved in my show in Acton Town Hall, yeah? And it was packed, absolutely packed. I had some good fighters there. It was packed with fighters. I had about, 12 people fight that night. Maybe a little bit less, but not much. So eventually me and Colin got to get in the ring. Colin can have a row. I mean, personally, I feel that he did not Lenny McLean spark out, and Roy Shaw, maybe a few others, yeah? Lenny McLean, I mean, honestly, he could fight Colin Cracknell. He could really fight, yeah? I got in with him. When I got in with him in the ring, yeah, everybody wanted to see Colin get beat. Everybody wanted to see me get beat. It was one of them things, yeah? The first round, Colin come out and he hit me on the chin and he rocked me, mate. And I thought, wow. And I was nearly gone, yeah? But I caught him with a left hook, so it stopped it, yeah? And I thought, well, this guy's out to beat me, out to knock me spark out, and he looked like he was going to do it. So, being it is unlicensed, I picked him up and I nutted him and chucked him out of the ring. I'm big, 17 and a half, 18 stone. He's 15 and a half. I picked him up and threw him out of the ring like a baby, yeah? He didn't want none of that. He didn't want none of that game, but he got his money. And I was gutted really, because when I hear about people talking about other people from that side of the water, Bill Baum and Roy Shaw, Lenny McLean and other people, and these people down in the fruit market, well, they was too much really. They would have gone down there and ate them for dinner, yeah? But that's how it is, that's life, innit? But, I mean, my people, in my times, when I used to fight on the unlicensed fighting, those people should always be remembered. All them people should be remembered. Not just Lenny, not just Roy, not just Cliff, not just Waldron. Not them people should, not just them should be remembered. It should be everybody. Me, Columbo, Lloyd Wolfram, Brian Hall, there's about another 10 heavyweights that should be remembered, and unlicensed fighters that should be remembered from my times, because they're the ones that started it all off, yeah? They're the ones that made unlicensed fighting. They're the ones, they was the governors, mate. Don't worry about that. They were the governors. Today is a different kettle of fish. They got no chance. It's like a baby thing today. It's like a slap on the wrist. It's like ponytails, silly boys running around shouting, hollering on the media, right? What they can do, what they can't do, and they can't do nothing. Because in them my days, you never shouted, mate. You just said, "What? You want to fight? Yeah, all right, fight tomorrow or the next day." That's how what it was like, and proper men. None of this running around. It's crazy, and I see Matt Legg the other day done a thing about fighters. Good. I love Matt Legg when he does that sort of thing, but he left out the unlicensed fighters, mate. He left out the people that were the governors. He left them out. No point in getting Lenny McLean, Roy Shaw, Cliff Fields. I respect Cliff because I used to work with Cliff. And Cliff, to me, was one of the governors. Yeah, he was the top man, I think, with Johnny Waldron. But there was other fighters. There was fighters that beat Cliff Fields, unlicensed fighters that beat Cliff Fields that didn't even get talked about. You know, there was fighters that beat Lenny McLean that never even got a talk about. There was fighters that beat Roy Shaw that never even got a talk about. You know, and you can't just put them up as being the hardest people where they got beat easy. You know, look at Kevin Paddock with Lenny, bashing him up, something terrible. You know, look at Cliff Fields, bashing him up, something. I mean, Cliff Fields got a reckoning, he got a talk, but everyone's saying that Lenny, without any shadow of a doubt, Lenny could have it on the pavement. Lenny was one hard man on the pavement. Yes, he was. But so was Cliff Fields. And so was Colombo. Listen, Steve Richards, mate. Colombo, don't worry about him. Don't underestimate Steve Richards, because with Steve Richards, rest in peace, he's dead now, but he could really have it. So could Chippendale. He could really have it. There was fighters that I don't think a lot of them ain't even heard of that could really march on. Lloyd Wolfram could really march on. Brian Hall could really march on, you know. I mean, look at go back after I finish my podcast or my video. Go back to the beginning of unlicensed fights. Go back to where it first started, and it really first started with Donnie the Bull Adams. He's had quite a few unlicensed fights. Donnie the Bull Adams was the governor. When he fought Roy Shaw, he'd had about 40 odd fights. You know, he was played out, yeah. Then Roy Shaw got Lenny. Lenny was a person that Frankie Warren pushed up. Without Lenny, Frankie Warren would have been the person he is today, and without Frankie Warren, Lenny wouldn't have been the person he was. It's as easy as that. They done each other. Frankie Warren said Lenny McLean was a bully. No, Lenny McLean wasn't a bully. He was a fighter. He was a fighter, mate. He'd fight anybody at any time, but in the boxing ring, he wasn't all that good. Even though he fought some people, you know. But listen, that game, unlicensed fighting, was a game where people would take a dive 24/7. They'd take a dive 24/7 for a little bit of cash, you know. Honestly, but anyway, look, I've got a list here of about 20 fighters, maybe more than that. I ain't even going to say their names, this is a waste of time. But most of them unlicensed fighters, mate, that done unlicensed fighting, you know. So most of them, I should think, maybe 2 of them got a mention. You know what I mean? And they should have all been mentioned. The fighters, the proper fighters. There's no point in mentioning the people that everybody knows about. You've got to mention the ones that people don't know about, that beat these people. Yeah, and I just like the people that beat Kevin Paddock, mate. He's never had a mention, Kevin Paddock. Johnny Waldron really never got mentioned. He never even got mentioned. I was going to do Johnny Waldron, right, myself, but Matt Legg got into it. Matt Legg done a really, really good, fantastic podcast on Johnny Waldron, because no one's even mentioned Johnny Waldron. And Johnny Waldron was one of the governors at it. You know what I mean? He beat Lenny twice. He knocks him out in one round with a jab. I mean, let's not forget these people. Don't forget Johnny Waldron. Don't forget Cliff Fields. It's not about Len and Roy. It's about other fighters, other good fighters. I'm one of them. I'm one of these fighters as well. Do you know what I mean? I'm one of these fighters that I didn't care. I come from West London, over to that side, South East London, to fight. I wasn't afraid of doing all that. And it was good. It was good. It was good. Well, it lasted. And then I went to West London, done my own shows, bump, and then got involved with armed robberies and got Big Bird again. And had the chance that I lost, yeah. But I wish today that I'd have got involved with doing not unlicensed fighting, but doing professional fighting, as what Frankie Warren did, you know, and Joe Pyle. I mean, Joe Pyle, what a good man him, Joe Pyle, mate. Nothing ever said about Joe Pyle and Alex Steen. Nothing's ever said about them two. People forget about Alex Steen and Joe Pyle. They were the governors at this unlicensed game. They was doing it well before Frankie Warren was doing it. You got Ray Bender. Ronnie Bender's brother was involved with Alex Steen doing it as well. Anyway, listen, I won't go on and on and on. This is Bang Bang Radio. Please press the like button and subscribe and give me your comments. Nice one.